Have you ever looked at a self-watering pot and thought, this looks clever, but will it actually make my life easier? That's exactly what I thought when Ire from Semi-Hydroponics with the Leca Queen Facebook group told me about the Wavy self-watering planters. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. They claim to water your plants for a month, look beautiful and work for semi-hydro, but do they actually deliver? On paper, the design is genius, but what's the real story? Let's dive into the feedback and see if they're truly worth it. Today, I'm unboxing them, testing them out, and showing you exactly how they work. I'll also be sharing real-life feedback from the community, the pros and cons, and whether I think they're worth the price tag. Let's find out. Wavy sent me these pots to try, but there was no payment or input into this review. Everything I share here is based on my own experience and that of others in the community. The Wavy pot comes in two sizes, 4-inch and 5.5 inches. You can get them individually or in packs of a 4, 6, or 10, and they come in a few clean colors, white, cream, and gray. In the box, you get the outer pot with a water level indicator, a clear inner nursery pot, a platform insert with a nylon whisk, which is what's recommended for soil, a mesh screen, which is handy if you're using pond or pumice or small media. And the first thing I noticed is how beautiful does that look? Look at that pot. It is in the most gorgeous looking cover. It's got lots of plants on there. It looks absolutely beautiful. And it says country of origin, Canada. I'm guessing this is the 5.5-inch pot. Can't wait to get into that. And this is the tiny 4.4-inch. Absolutely beautiful. So far, so good. Big one, small one. Let's get into the actual pots. That is just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, come out. Wow. 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 That feels amazing. So that is the little mesh that you use when growing. So, no, hang on. That is, yes, that is just a little mesh. That goes there. Right. And there's a little wick. So you can pull up. How does this come out? I'm being particular. It's taped down. Oh my goodness. I couldn't even see that. It's taped down. That's the wick. That is awesome. 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 So if you're growing your plant in pond, you can put that little thing there and your pond is not going to fall through those little holes. How amazing is that? But this is the all-important gizmo in there. That's the self-watering indicator. We're going to take a look at that in a minute. So that's my gray one. And oh, that is my white one. Oh my gosh. It feels amazing. And of course, the all-important clear pots with the little ventilation holes in the sides. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Ooh, I'm going to keep these. I don't know what I'll do with them, but I'm keeping them. Too eager to get into the pots. Look at that. How gorgeous and beautiful is that? Wow. White one. And that's where you get to see the water level indicator. Absolutely fabulous. The first thing I noticed, these pots feel really well made. And the inner pot, which is crystal clear, makes it easy to keep an eye on the roots. The website says the deep reservoir lasts up to 4 weeks and waters your plant passively, which means fewer reservoir top-ups and more consistent moisture. And we love that in a semi-hydroponics pot. Here's how the system works. Water sits at the bottom of the pot in a built-in reservoir. The inner pot sits inside that reservoir, not above it, so it's in direct contact with the water or nutrient solution. If you use the platform and wick, your growing medium and plant roots are elevated just above the water line. The wick draws water up from below and into the medium, creating a traditional wick system. If you remove the platform, your Leca or pond or whatever semi-hydro medium sits directly in the reservoir, direct contact with the reservoir, soaking in the nutrient solution. This becomes a submerged method. As your plant drinks, the float in the water level indicator slowly lowers. When it hits the bottom, it's time to refill. This setup gives you flexibility to choose the method that suits your plant's stage of growth and change it over time as needed. Before we even put a plant in here, I want to answer two critical questions. How much water does this reservoir actually hold? And more importantly, is there a risk of overfilling it and accidentally drowning your plant's roots? Let's test it out. I've got some water here in a measuring cup. I'm going to fill the reservoir until the indicator hits the maximum line, so we know exactly how much nutrient solution to mix up. The indicator for the 5.5-inch pot, when we fill it up with water, takes exactly 1,700 mils of water. The smaller pot, the 4-inch one, takes 700 mils of water. Now, the crucial test. What happens if I'm distracted and I keep filling? I overfill it. Oh, wow. Okay. This result is critical. As you can see, the excess water is now at a higher level than the platform. This is a huge risk. If you're not paying attention, you could easily create a swamp in that reservoir and completely suffocate the roots, leading to root rot. You have to be very careful to stop right when the indicator hits the top. How to use the pots. The website gives specific instructions. It says for soil, you should use the platform and wick. But for semi-hydro, it says to remove the platform and wick and let the Leca or pond sit directly in the water reservoir. That's fine. But I think that's selling this pot short. Here's where I'd do things a little bit differently. I think you can use both configurations for semi-hydroponics depending on your plant's needs, taking care to ensure you're not overflooding the reservoir. So first is the wick method. You use the platform with the wick for a classic semi-hydroponic setup. This is perfect for plants that are sensitive to having their roots constantly submerged. Plants like codex plants, for example, and succulents. For the submerged method, remove the platform just as they say for the submerged setup for water-loving plants. I would use this for more mature plants that already have strong roots and are used to the hydro environment. Here's something I find really practical. You can start a young plant using the wick method, and then as it grows, you simply remove the platform to give it more space and instantly convert it into the submerged method. You're adapting the pot to the plant as it matures. That, in my mind, is true versatility. Of course, don't forget to add nutrients to the water if you're using any semi-hydroponics method. The pot doesn't come with nutrients included. The reality check and community feedback. Now, let's talk about the potential problems. The website promises this. You'll know exactly when to water, no guessing, no mistakes. And while that's a goal, it's always good to know how things work in the real world. Luckily, when these pots came up in discussion, members of the Semi-Hydroponics for the Leca Queen community volunteered some very important real-world feedback. Now, it's important to remember, this isn't a huge scientific study. This is just the experience of a couple of members from the Semi-Hydroponics group, but their feedback is super valuable for us as new owners. One member mentioned her water level indicator got stuck, and this is an important but. She also noted that she had let the nutrient salts accumulate in the reservoir. This brings up a fantastic point about general plant care. If you're cleaning out the reservoir regularly, which is good practice for the health of your plants anyway, this might not be an issue that you ever encounter. But the best part is, even if it does happen and your water level indicator gets stuck, we now know the simple fix. Another member pointed out that you just need to give the plunger a little push every now and then to make sure it's moving freely. So it's not really a flaw in the pot, just a good piece of user knowledge to have. It's great to be aware of a potential issue and even better to know exactly how to solve it in 2 seconds. Another member noted that on her fast-growing plant, the roots grew out and started to interfere with that same plunger. So just be careful and know when it's time to repot your plant. In my mind, ultimately, these aren't deal breakers. They're just helpful tips that make us all better plant parents anyway. Some people mentioned that functionally, this planter is really the same as your DIY 2-pot system. But of course, the big draw with this is the aesthetic and the fact that all the bits are designed to fit together nicely. You can't go past that. So let's break down the pros and the cons. The pros. Well, the pot is clean. It's got a modern look that works in any room. It works with both semi-hydroponic methods. The water level indicator takes the guesswork out of knowing when to water. And of course, it comes with everything you need. There are no extra parts that you need to source. The inner pot is clear and has great root visibility. The cons. Well, it's more expensive than a DIY net pot setup, that goes without saying. The indicator can get a bit stuck if you don't clean your pots regularly. The roots may interfere with the flotation water indicator level device. So this brings us to the most important question. Are they worth the price? It's really breaks down into your budget, your eye for aesthetics, and your desire for convenience. First, let's look at the budget. These are a premium product. And here's how I look at it. If you're just after function, you can absolutely build a 2-pot setup for less. Next is the aesthetics and the convenience. Let's be honest. Finding a nursery pot that fits perfectly inside a stylish cash pot is a struggle. These solve that problem with a clean, minimalist look right out of the box. You're paying to not have to search for that solution. And if your priority is aesthetic, convenience, and flexibility, it might be worth investing in a few of these. So here's the final breakdown. Buy them if you value a modern, uniform aesthetic, you love the hack of having 2 semi-hydro methods in one pot, and you're a diligent plant parent who will remember to check the water level indicator regularly. Skip them if you're on a strict budget or you prefer a DIY approach. Now, if it overfills, the risk of accidentally flooding the pot we saw earlier can be a deal breaker for you. Or if you know you'll forget to check the water level indicator and don't want to risk your plants if the water level indicator catches. So, are these wavy leaf pots genius? I think they're a really solid option if you want a low maintenance, good-looking setup that works for semi-hydro. And the fact that you can switch between Wick and Submerged methods makes them super flexible. If you want to try them for yourself, you can get them from the Wavy Leaf website and use my code, the Leca Queen, to get 10% off your order. And if you haven't already, come join us in the Semi-Hydroponics with the Leca Queen Facebook group. It's an incredible hive mind. I get so many invaluable tips from seeing everyone's setups and experiments, which inspires so much of what I share with you. In the next video, I'll walk you through a few more of my favorite semi-hydroponic pots, including some budget-friendly options. So make sure you stick around for that. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.